Why does the pursuit of happiness often lead to dissatisfaction? Quite the conundrum, isn't it? An irony of life that leaves us puzzled. It seems counterintuitive. After all, shouldn't the quest for joy bring about joy itself? However, we find ourselves caught in a paradox, where the more we seek happiness, the more elusive it becomes. Let's dive into this paradox a bit deeper. Imagine you're in a maze, blindly chasing a spectre of happiness. You're so focused on catching it that you lose sight of the beautiful, intricate labyrinth around you. The vibrant flowers on the walls, the warm sunshine filtering through the leaves, the soft rustling of the wind, all go unnoticed in your relentless pursuit. And when you finally reach the center, expecting to find happiness, you find it empty. The spectre has vanished. You're left feeling dissatisfied, even though you've traversed a beautiful journey. This is quite similar to our pursuit of happiness in life. We often become so engrossed in chasing it that we overlook the joy in the journey itself. Happiness, it seems, is a tricky fellow. It enjoys the chase but eludes capture. In this pursuit, we stumble upon a philosophical approach to understanding this paradox known as the backwards law. It's a concept that suggests the more fervently we chase something, the less likely we are to achieve it. The more we desire happiness, the more it tends to slip through our fingers. It's like trying to hold water in your hand. The tighter you clasp, the faster it slips through your fingers. But if you gently cradle it, it stays. The backwards law works much the same way. It suggests that true contentment can be found not in the frantic pursuit of happiness, but in the acceptance of imperfection and the ability to appreciate the journey. This is what we call the backwards law, a concept that may initially seem counterintuitive. But as we delve deeper into this philosophical concept, we'll find it holds much wisdom and practical advice for our everyday lives. So let's embark on this journey of understanding the paradox of happiness. It's going to be insightful, I promise. So what exactly is this backwards law, I hear you ask? Well, it's quite a fascinating concept. The backwards law, in its most simple form, suggests that the more we pursue something, the less likely we are to achieve it. Imagine you're a dog chasing its own tail. The harder you run, the faster your tail seems to move away from you. It's always just out of reach, no matter how much you stretch and strive. Now, replace that tail with something you desire, be it wealth, success, or even happiness itself. The more you chase, the more elusive it becomes. Quite a paradox, isn't it? Now let's delve a bit deeper. Our world today is a whirlwind of ambition and aspiration. We're constantly told to strive for more, to reach for the stars. But according to the backwards law, this constant pursuit of external circumstances and material possessions can actually lead to dissatisfaction and a sense of lack. Think about it. You buy a new phone, and for a while you're thrilled, but soon, a newer model comes out, and suddenly your shiny gadget doesn't seem so shiny anymore. You're left wanting more, trapped in a cycle of endless desire. This isn't to say ambition is bad, rather it's about understanding that unchecked desire can lead to a sense of dissatisfaction. It's about realizing that the things we often chase with such fervor might not be the keys to true contentment. Alan Watts, a British philosopher, once said, "When you get the message, hang up the phone." He meant that once you understand something, there's no need to keep seeking it. We might do well to apply this to our quest for happiness. In other words, the more you chase happiness, the more elusive it becomes. How does the backwards law play out in real life? Let's consider some real-world examples. Picture the ambitious entrepreneur who works 80-hour weeks in the pursuit of wealth. The more they chase after riches, the more elusive they become. Their relentless pursuit leads to stress, burnout, and a sense of dissatisfaction. They've got the fancy car and the mansion, but they're too stressed and busy to enjoy them. Consider the aspiring influencer, constantly striving for popularity. They spend hours crafting the perfect post, obsessing over likes and followers. The more they seek validation from others, the more they feel a sense of emptiness. They're surrounded by virtual admirers, but they feel profoundly alone. Or take the high-achieving student, pushing themselves to the limit for top grades. They sacrifice sleep, social life, and self-care in their quest for success. Yet, the closer they get to their goal, the more they feel a sense of disappointment. They've got the straight A's, but they've lost their love for learning. These examples illustrate the paradox inherent in the backwards law. The more we strive for something, the less likely we are to achieve it. The constant pursuit of external circumstances and material possessions leads to dissatisfaction and a sense of lack. It's a bit like chasing a rainbow. The closer you think you're getting, the further it seems to recede. The philosopher Alan Watts once said, "When you try to stay on the surface of the water, you sink, but when you try to sink, you float." This beautifully encapsulates the backwards law. It's not about giving up on our goals or ambitions, but about changing our relationship with them. It's about letting go of the desperate need to achieve and learning to enjoy the journey. Ironically, it's often when we stop striving so hard that we find what we were looking for. What do philosophers have to say about the backwards law? That's a question worth exploring. Two philosophers in particular have shared insights that align remarkably well with the concept of the backwards law: Alan Watts and Arthur Schopenhauer. Alan Watts, a British philosopher known for his interpretations of Eastern philosophy for Western audiences, was a firm proponent of living in the now. He believed that our constant striving for future happiness robs us of the joy in the present moment. This is akin to the backwards law, where the relentless pursuit of something often leads to the very opposite of what we seek. Watts famously said, "We are living in a culture entirely hypnotized by the illusion of time, in which the so-called present moment is felt as nothing but an infinitesimal hairline between an all-powerfully causative past and an absorbingly important future." This sentiment underscores the essence of the backwards law. It suggests that our obsession with future outcomes and past regrets blinds us to the beauty of the present. On the other hand, Arthur Schopenhauer, a German philosopher, held a rather pessimistic view of human existence. He proposed that our lives are driven by a ceaseless striving and wanting, which ultimately leads to suffering. This idea aligns with the backwards law, as it suggests that the relentless pursuit of desires often leads to discontentment. Schopenhauer argued that true happiness lies not in the fulfillment of our desires, but in the cessation of desire itself. He once said, "The two enemies of human happiness are pain and boredom." This implies that we often create our own unhappiness by constantly seeking to avoid pain and boredom, rather than accepting them as inherent aspects of life. In essence, both philosophers highlight the paradox at the heart of the backwards law. They suggest that our incessant pursuit of happiness and contentment often leads us further away from these very goals. By letting go of constant striving and accepting life as it is, we might find the contentment we seek. As Schopenhauer said, happiness exists only in imagination. How can understanding the backwards law make a difference in your life? Well, let's delve into that, shall we? It's quite simple, really. The first step is awareness. Recognize that constant pursuit of external circumstances and material possessions often leads to dissatisfaction and a sense of lack. It's like running on a treadmill that's constantly speeding up. You're exerting so much effort, but are you really getting anywhere? The next step is acceptance. Acceptance of the imperfections in life. Acceptance of the unpredictability. Acceptance of the fact that you can't control everything. It's about being okay with the okay, not always striving for the great. It's about finding beauty in the ordinary. It's about understanding that the sunset is just as beautiful as the sunrise, even though it signifies the end of the day. In addition, let's not forget about gratitude. It's about appreciating what you have right now, rather than longing for what you don't. It's about savoring that cup of tea, enjoying the sound of rain against the window, or simply being grateful for the air you breathe. Now, this doesn't mean you should abandon your ambitions or stop striving for better. It's about finding a balance. It's about understanding that striving for more can coexist with contentment with what you already have. The backwards law isn't a magic bullet. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's a perspective, a lens through which you can view your life. It's a gentle reminder that sometimes less is more, and that sometimes, in letting go, we find what we've been searching for. So remember, the next time you find yourself relentlessly pursuing happiness, consider the backwards law. You might just find that happiness has been there all along. Let's take a moment to reflect on what we've just uncovered about the backwards law. It's a powerful, paradoxical principle that can turn your understanding of happiness on its head. But remember, it's not about giving it all up and living in a cave. It's about balance, acceptance, and gratitude. It's about understanding that happiness isn't a destination, it's a journey. It's about realizing that the pursuit of happiness often takes us further away from it. It's about recognizing that sometimes, in our quest for more, we overlook the joy and contentment that's right in front of us. It's about finding beauty in the ordinary and realizing that the ordinary is often extraordinary. The backwards law is a perspective, a lens through which you can view your life. It's a gentle reminder to slow down, look around, and savor the moment. It's a nudge in the direction of contentment, of peace, and ultimately, of happiness. These, of course, were just thoughts on toast, but we hope they've given you food for thought and maybe even a fresh perspective on the pursuit of happiness.